On a humid afternoon in Lagos, the commercial capital of Nigeria, the sun's rays bounced off towering glass buildings and polished SUVs, reflecting the city's dual realities: immense wealth side by side with stark poverty. A warm breeze swept across the cityscape, rustling the leaves of scattered palm trees outside a high-rise apartment complex in Victoria Island. Here lived a couple once at the pinnacle of success: Pippa Grayson and Michael Grayson. Their story had once been an inspiration, a whirlwind of romance, business triumph, and enviable social status. Magazines called them the power couple of Lagos, praising their philanthropic endeavors and their lavish lifestyle. But behind the sparkling smiles and carefully curated social media posts, cracks were forming. Soon, those cracks would fracture their entire world. Pippa, a beauty with an iron will, would go down a path that exposed her hidden hunger for control and prestige. Michael, once unshakable, would see all he built threatened and toppled by one catastrophic investment. Along the way, they would encounter betrayal, lust, and deception in the city's underbelly of private parties, questionable deals, and moral compromise. This is the story of Golden Ashes, the rise, fall, and uncertain redemption of a marriage caught in the crosshairs of ambition and fate. The rise and the fall. Every significant newspaper and gossip blog in Lagos once praised Pippa and Michael. Their glamorous life was a testament to Nigeria's new money class, driven, innovative, and unafraid of risk. Michael's ventures in oil exploration and real estate had soared over a 10-year period. He closed lucrative deals and established partnerships in distant cities. Pippa, supportive from day one, had been by his side as he transformed from a modest staff accountant into a major player in Lagos's high-end property scene. They lived in a grand penthouse apartment overlooking the Atlantic Ocean. 12-foot windows showcased the water's ever-changing hues. Every morning, Pippa sipped freshly brewed tea on their spacious balcony, glancing contentedly at the city below. She took pride in the minimalist but exquisite decor: imported Italian furniture, glass sculptures from France, and an entire walk-in closet brimming with designer outfits. Their lavish parties were legendary. Politicians, celebrities, foreign investors, all gathered to mingle in the Graysons entertainment hall. On these occasions, Pippa's presence was nothing short of regal. Her silky, custom-made gowns shimmered under the dim chandelier lights, her hair styled to perfection by top stylists. Michael, always at her side, charmed guests with his gentle smile and confident handshake. Michael, smiling at Pippa during a party: "You see how everyone is drawn to you? They can't help but be captivated by your grace." Pippa, laughing lightly: "They're drawn to us, my love. You built this empire, and I can't wait to see it grow even more." That year, Michael's ambitions steered him into negotiations with certain government officials. He heard whispered rumors of a massive infrastructure project, a construction of oil pipelines spanning from the Niger Delta region to the outskirts of Lagos. If his company could secure the contract, they'd make tens of millions in profit, ensuring the Grayson status for decades. Hungry to clinch the deal, Michael entrusted large sums of money to a consultant who promised a direct link to the officials awarding the tender. Months went by. The initial glow of anticipation faded. The phone calls from government contacts became infrequent, and the consultant who had boasted of his political connections vanished. Michael, hounded by banks and private investors, poured more resources into the venture, hoping it would eventually pan out. The official news arrived in the form of a short letter. His firm was disqualified from the pipeline contract due to incomplete paperwork. Michael, reading the letter, voice trembling: "Disqualified? We spent all that money for nothing? How is this possible?" The panic set in. If the pipeline project was gone, so was the capital he'd borrowed to chase it. The contractor who had vanished left behind no paper trail, and the government officials refused to speak about it further, citing legal restrictions. It was a scheme from top to bottom, and Michael was the mark. The Graysons' financial downturn wasn't sudden. It was a slow, steady trickle. First, they began missing minor payments to certain suppliers. Then, delays in staff salaries became routine. The confident smiles on their employees' faces turned into anxious frowns. Rumors spread in business circles. The Graysons are in trouble. At home, Pippa strove to maintain an air of composure. She continued her meticulous grooming habits, dressing in her best outfits whenever she visited wealthy friends or social events. Yet a new tension gnawed at her. The cupboards that once overflowed with imported groceries and wines were emptier every week. She noticed Michael pacing late into the night, tapping away on his laptop, making desperate calculations. The final blow came when the bank repossessed their Rolls-Royce due to unpaid installments. Then the staff, chefs, drivers, domestic help had to be laid off. Pippa found herself forced to do simple tasks like cooking and dishwashing, things she hadn't done in years. This shift was more than an inconvenience. It felt like a direct assault on her identity. Pippa, kneading dough in the kitchen, tears in her eyes. I don't understand how this happened. We were so close to sealing that deal. Michael, exhausted, leaning against the counter. I'm sorry, Pippa. I wanted to secure our future. I believe them. Although she consoled him on the surface, she silently harbored bitterness. She loved Michael, but she was furious with him. Part of her recognized the fragility of life's luxuries. Yet she resented the way everything was collapsing around her without warning. Michael, determined to pull them out of the crisis, pushed himself without rest. He contacted old associates for loans. He explored new deals in real estate, often traveling on cheap local flights or even driving to remote areas to pitch business proposals. The strain became visible in his thinning frame and the dark circles under his eyes. Despite her mounting frustration, Pippa nursed him tenderly when he returned home each night, sometimes coughing or stumbling into bed. Pippa, placing a cold compress on his forehead, "You must see a doctor, Michael." Michael, weakly smiling, "And tell him what? That I'm stressed? I can't afford to slow down. The next deal might save us." His words tugged at her heart. She hated seeing him so frail, yet she also hated the life they were living. Her once shining diamond rings now felt heavy with regret. This was not the fairy tale she'd worked so hard to maintain. Little did she know the road ahead would pull her down even further, testing the boundaries of her loyalty and ambition. Enter Chloe, a longtime friend of Pippa's, known for her biting wit and love for scandalous stories. She had always orbited the city's wealthy circles, though often by association rather than personal fortune. Chloe was one of the first to notice Pippa's dwindling status. One evening, she popped up unexpectedly at the Graysons' modest new apartment, an unremarkable building that offered none of the previous penthouse splendor. Chloe, raising an eyebrow at the cramped living room. "Wow, Pippa, you really have downsized." Pippa, forcing a laugh. "Times are tough, Chloe. We're adjusting." "Chloe, adjusting? That word always sounds so painful. Anyway, I might have a little something that could help you out. I have connections to certain private events." Pippa was hesitant, but curiosity nudged her. She had grown tired of counting pennies and missing out on the high life that once defined her identity. Chloe introduced Pippa to a world of high-end private parties, discreet gatherings in five-star hotels or lavish mansions. Here, wealthy men, from oil magnates to foreign investors, sought female companionship without the constraints of public judgment. It was an open secret among Lagos elites that these parties were more than simple social gatherings. They were arenas for secret deals, fleeting romances, and often questionable moral choices. At first, Pippa only intended to attend as an observer. The invitation alone was thrilling. Dress up in glamorous outfits, sip champagne, mingle with affluent strangers. She told herself it was just to gather connections, maybe glean potential business leads for Michael. But the line between social networking and crossing moral boundaries blurred quickly. At the first party, Pippa was enveloped in an intoxicating mix of colognes, designer perfumes, and expensive whiskey. The environment reminded her of her old social status. People wearing extravagant clothes, brandishing wads of cash. Once she glimpsed how lavishly some women were rewarded for their company, she felt an uneasy knot of envy and temptation in her stomach. That night, Chloe whispered in her ear. Chloe, smirking, see the man by the piano? That's Chief Emeka. He'll pay a fortune for a discreet dinner date, and I mean discreet. With that face of yours, you could solve half your financial problems in one night. Pippa, biting her lip, that's not me, Chloe. I can't just. Chloe, think of it as a favor. You listen to his stories, laugh at his jokes, keep him happy. Nobody said you have to sleep with him. Unless, of course, you want that extra cash. Pippa turned away, feeling both repulsed and strangely intrigued. That night, she refused all propositions, but the memory of wads of dollar bills exchanging hands lingered. She returned home to an apartment with flickering electricity, a stack of overdue bills, and a husband who coughed himself to sleep. Reality pressured her. Perhaps she needed to be practical. The second party she attended, things shifted. A wealthy shipping magnate offered Pippa a gift, a thick envelope of cash, simply for having drinks with him and letting him drape his arm around her waist while they talked. Embarrassed, she tried to refuse, but the man insisted. He commented that it was an honor just to be seen with a beautiful woman like her. She rationalized it. This is just dinner money. No real harm done. Yet, deep down, she recognized this was a door she should never have opened. Over time, Pippa's involvement escalated. She started scheduling dates, short engagements involving fancy meals, maybe a small public appearance, often culminating in private encounters. If it ended in the bedroom, the payment was significantly larger. She compartmentalized this life. During the day, she was the supportive wife, cooking and cleaning for Michael in their modest home. By night, she became the seductress, wearing provocative dresses, towering heels, and the sweetest of smiles for her high-paying admirers. Her guilt flared whenever she saw Michael hunched over his desk, trying to salvage a deal. The memory of his once confident stride and the adoration in his eyes when he looked at her made her chest tighten. Yet her bitterness at the loss of luxury continuously gnawed at her resolve. Pippa, muttering in front of a mirror, I'm doing this for us, just until we get back on our feet. Michael can't know. He would never understand. She used the money to restock her wardrobe with expensive wigs, designer handbags, and spa sessions, explaining the sudden cash flow to Michael as small consulting gigs for wealthy acquaintances. At first, he seemed relieved. He believed she was using her social connections to do upscale event planning or style consulting. Nothing too shocking. Yet there were telling signs that worried Michael. A new perfume lingered on Pippa's clothes when he didn't buy for her. Sometimes, she'd come home at dawn, claiming she had to attend a business function. He noticed unfamiliar phone numbers on their shared statement. He tried to ignore these warning bells, but doubt festered. In moments of desperation, he drank local gin to calm his nerves. Michael, one night, voice slurred, I trust you, Pippa, but where do you really go at those late hours? Pippa, stroking his hair, eyes averted, you worry too much, my love. I'm just trying to help us. Now rest. The rancid smell of gin on his breath and the desperation in his eyes made her stomach churn with guilt and frustration. But she couldn't stop. She had become addicted not only to the money but to the attention, the sense of power. She had always envied the men who controlled the city's wealth and narrative. Now, in her own way, she felt she was learning the game. Among Pippa's many new clients was Damian Cole, a figure whispered about in political circles. Rumors claimed he had ties to corrupt officials, armed smugglers, and money launderers. In his early 50s, he still possessed a commanding presence. Tall, broad-shouldered, with salt and pepper hair and a voice that rolled like thunder. They met at a private gala in a secluded mansion by the Lagos Lagoon. A single glance from Damien communicated that he was a man who got what he wanted. He approached Pippa with a glass of champagne, ignoring the stares from other high society attendees. Damien, in a low tone, I've watched you, Mrs. Grayson. You're wasted on these petty men. Come with me. That night, he offered her a ride home in a sleek black Maybach. She agreed, curiosity ablaze. During the drive, he revealed an unsettling knowledge of her situation. Michael's downfall, the shady parties, even her lingering bitterness. Damien, why keep yourself tied to a sinking ship? You have beauty, sophistication. You deserve to be more than just a trophy. Work with me. With that promise, he handed her an envelope stuffed with crisp dollar bills. The next day, he sent a single text. Lunch at my suite, Eco Atlantic Tower. 2 p.m. Despite her better judgment, she went. As their relationship deepened, Damien tested the boundaries of Pippa's loyalty. Over luxurious dinners and whispered midnight calls, he asked about Michael's former business partners, properties, and especially any land deals that might still be in Michael's name. Pippa, at first, insisted she knew little. But the more time she spent with Damien, the more she realized he could offer everything she desired. Lavish gifts, high-class socials, and the chance to reclaim her position as a queen in Lagos's elite world. Little by little, she shared some details, like the addresses of Michael's unsold real estate plots and the contacts of Michael's old client base. She comforted herself by thinking Michael had already lost those properties to debt or mortgages. She never guessed that Damien intended to use this information for blackmail. Meanwhile, Zane, a 22-year-old tech whiz, had skyrocketed to fame by developing an innovative payment app. He was flush with cash, bored, and easily enticed by beautiful older women. He crossed paths with Pippa at yet another private party. His youthful energy and naive fascination with her made Pippa laugh. She never intended anything serious. He was simply a breath of fresh air compared to Damien's imposing presence. However, Zane fell hard. He bombarded Pippa with adoring messages, extravagant gifts, smartphones, jewelry, even a small sport car. At first, Pippa relished the attention. She teased him, letting him believe he had a chance to win her over. She visited his sleek penthouse occasionally, each time leaving with a significant gift in cash or cryptocurrency. Unbeknownst to her, Zane's obsession was spiraling into dark territory. On the home front, Pastor Evans, a spiritual guide to Michael, began sensing something amiss. He was a man with an uncanny ability to see hidden truths. A month before everything unraveled, Michael confided in the pastor about Pippa's strange behavior. Michael, voice cracking, she comes home at odd hours. There's a distance in her eyes. I'm losing her. Pastor Evans, closing his eyes in prayer, I sense a storm around your household. Temptations swirl like a hurricane. It's not too late, my son. Cling to your faith. And watch closely, for betrayal comes disguised as help. Michael, though rattled, felt helpless. He had no money to mount an extravagant rescue, nor the emotional energy to question Pippa's every move. In a final, cryptic warning, Pastor Evans murmured, Pastor Evans, only the pure of heart will survive the fire that's coming. The sign Michael needed arrived through a single photograph. A friend recognized Pippa's silhouette in a nightlife blog article featuring a top club. The article mentioned an unidentified beauty at the VIP lounge with a group of wealthy men. Although her face was blurred, Michael could spot her posture, her distinctive style of wearing her hair. Alarm bells rang. Unwilling to believe rumors, Michael hired a private investigator, a contact from his real estate days. Within 2 weeks, the investigator presented him a folder of damning evidence. Pictures of Pippa at hotels with different men, a record of large financial transactions under her name, and a note about her frequent visits to Damien Cole's private suite. Michael, sinking into a chair, reading the report, it can't be no. This is insane. Investigator, I'm sorry, Mr. Grayson. It's all here and it's current. His heart shattered. Rage, sorrow, and disbelief crashed over him like a tidal wave. At that moment, he realized that the woman he loved had been living a double life, risking not only her dignity but also his. Stunned, he left home, telling no one, not even Pippa, about his discoveries. In the midst of Pippa's nightly escapades, Damien tightened his grip. He summoned her to a hidden lounge near the Lagos docks, a place rumored to host clandestine arms deals. When she arrived, he got straight to the point. Damien, I need Michael to sign over some land rights from his old real estate holdings. I can't have him interfering with the project I'm running. You'll handle it. Pippa, uneasy, but he's lost nearly everything. He's not even in a position to sign anything. Damien, eyes narrowing. He still has influence, or at least enough power to sign documents that ensure no legal blockages for my ventures. Convince him or trick him. I don't care which. Shaken, Pippa realized she'd gone too far. Damien had everything to blackmail her. Evidence of their illicit affair, financial ties, and her prior information leaks. If she refused, he could ruin her, or worse, harm Michael. She hesitantly agreed, though her conscience screamed. Later that evening, Pippa eavesdropped on a tense conversation between Damien and an associate, hidden by the lounge's thick velvet curtains. Her blood turned cold as she overheard words like accident and Michael's in the way. It dawned on her, Damien intended to eliminate Michael once the necessary documents were signed. She rushed outside, her mind spinning. For all her anger and bitterness toward Michael, she never wanted him dead. She had started her double life seeking money and status, not murder. At the same time, Zane was growing increasingly deranged. Pippa had gone quiet for a week, avoiding his calls. Desperate, he hacked into her phone's camera and location services. His tech skills making it an easy feat, he recorded personal videos of her in private settings, capturing intimate moments. He threatened to post them online if she didn't reciprocate his feelings. Zane, frantic text to Pippa, "You belong to me. Come see me, or everyone sees your videos. I can't live without you." At first, Pippa tried to reason with him, but his texts grew more unhinged. She blocked him, only to discover he had multiple phone numbers, multiple online identities. Terrified, she turned to Chloe for advice, not realizing Chloe nursed her own jealousy and found twisted pleasure in the drama. Zane's meltdown culminated in an online explosion. One night, Pippa's phone lit up nonstop with messages from old friends, acquaintances, and even random strangers. A series of explicit clips had surfaced on social media and adult websites, recordings of Pippa with different men. The scandal erupted like wildfire, with her name trending on Nigerian Twitter feeds and gossip blogs. Hashtags popped up, mocking her. She was called everything from a fallen queen to the perfect example of high-class promiscuity. In seconds, her already precarious life was shattered. She knew Zane was behind it, but she also sensed another hand at play, Chloe. The final video that fully exposed her identity came from Chloe's phone. Perhaps out of envy or twisted vengeance, Chloe had decided to ruin Pippa's facade completely. Chloe, in a private message, mocking, "Some queens are meant to fall. Hope you find your way, darling." When the video surfaced, Michael was the first to vanish. He left no note, no explanation. Pippa returned home one morning, tear-streaked from the endless phone calls and online harassment, only to find his closet empty and a single scribbled message left on the kitchen table. Michael's note, "I can't stay here. Don't look for me. May God help you." Pippa collapsed, the note clutched in her trembling hands. Over the next few weeks, she tried calling every friend and family member. Nobody had heard from Michael. Even Pastor Evans had no clue. Rumors suggested he might have traveled to Ghana or even as far as Dubai. But in truth, his whereabouts were unknown. Damien's blackmail plot collapsed when Michael vanished. Incensed at Pippa for failing her job, he threatened her life. He cut her off financially, labeling her useless. Afraid for her safety, Pippa fled her apartment in the dead of night, carrying only a small suitcase of clothes and a fraction of the money she once had. Damien, in a menacing phone call, "You cost me a major deal, Pippa. Don't forget I know where you live, and I still have your secrets. You can't hide forever." Pippa knew she had to vanish too, if only to avoid Damien's wrath. She retreated to a rundown suburb far from Lagos's glittering lights, living in a tiny room that she could pay for daily in cash. For the first time since her youth, she stood at the brink of poverty, shunned by almost everyone she once called a friend. A full year elapsed. The tabloids found a new scandal to chase. Zane's meltdown placed him in a psychiatric institution. Rumors said he was in therapy after repeated threats of self-harm and bizarre public outbursts. Damien, busy with deeper political intrigues, evaded the public eye but continued to expand his underworld empire. Chloe reveled briefly in her triumph of dethroning Pippa, But she too faced social backlash as people whispered she was a snake who betrayed her friend. Pippa survived by waiting tables under a fake name, Amara, at a modest restaurant in a lower-middle-class neighborhood. She kept her head down, wearing simple clothes and cheap wigs to avoid recognition. Sometimes, a customer gave her a quizzical look, as if trying to recall where they had seen her. She'd force a humble smile and hurry away, heart pounding. This existence was a stark contrast to her penthouse days. She woke each morning in a cramped bedsit that smelled of damp walls and leftover street food. Over time, she reflected on her choices with mounting regret. She saw now how her obsession with status and material comforts had corroded her moral compass. Pippa, speaking quietly to herself, I was so blinded. I destroyed myself and the only man who truly loved me. God, if only I could turn back time. The small restaurant where Pippa worked, named Taste of Home, fell into financial trouble. The owners fretted over mounting debts. Without warning, a mysterious investor stepped in to buy the establishment. Rumors whispered about the investor being a local entrepreneur looking to transform the place into a profitable chain. The staff buzzed with excitement, hopeful that new management meant fresh salaries and a better working environment. Pippa, anxious about any potential changes, told her manager she would resign if asked. She felt sure the investor might not want an ex-socialite turned disgraced waitress in his business. On a rainy Wednesday evening, the new owner arrived for an inspection. Pippa was in the back kitchen, drying glasses and readying her apron. The manager signaled her to come out. With her head lowered, she walked into the main dining area. Manager, Amara, meet the new owner. Pippa lifted her gaze, and her eyes locked onto Michael Grayson. He looked different, leaner, more self-assured, dressed in a simple but well-fitted suit. She nearly dropped the glass she was holding. Pippa, voice quivering at Michael. Michael, studying her with a calm expression. Hello? Pippa. Or should I call you Amara? Shock crashed over her. Her instinct was to run, but she forced herself to stand still, tears stinging her eyes. He dismissed the manager gently, who stepped away, confusion etched on his face. Michael, we need to talk. They sat in a corner booth after the restaurant closed. Rain drummed on the windows, casting shadows across the empty tables. For several moments, neither spoke. Finally, Michael inhaled deeply. Michael, after everything that happened, I left Lagos for a while. I needed time to think, to rebuild. I had a few opportunities abroad, made some contacts. I returned about 3 months ago, quietly. I started buying businesses under a separate holding company. Taste of Home is one of them. Pippa could barely breathe. He seemed more composed than ever, but a hardness in his eyes indicated the toll of her betrayal. Pippa, voice trembling, why are you here? I never thought you'd come back. Not after what I did. Michael, I can't say I've forgiven you fully, but I also realized revenge doesn't fill the emptiness. When I saw you here, struggling, I decided to make an offer. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a folded envelope. Michael, I want you to manage this restaurant. You always had a knack for style and organization. If you make it profitable, you'll earn a salary plus a small percentage. But that's all. No special favors, no reinstatement of the old lifestyle. Strictly business. She stared at him, disbelieving. All her misdeeds raced through her mind. Her lies, affairs, the humiliations she'd brought upon them both. Pippa, why would you trust me with anything? Michael, with a wry smile, I don't fully trust you. But I won't turn away from someone who's fallen, no matter what. The question is, can you prove you've changed? Pippa realized tears were rolling down her cheeks. In that moment, she felt a sliver of hope. Maybe not a return to their marriage, but a chance to redeem herself. Pippa, I'll do anything to make this right. I swear. In the weeks following, news broke that Damian Cole had been arrested in connection with a money laundering and illegal arms smuggling ring. A joint task force, aided by foreign agencies, led a massive crackdown. The media splashed his face across every network. Investigations also revealed a string of manipulated contracts and bribed officials. The carefully curated empire of Damian Cole crumbled in mere days. Chloe found herself embroiled in a separate scandal. Something about leaked personal chats and a fraudulent investment scheme targeting her circle of wealthy associates. She, too, found her social capital wiped out, forced to retreat from Lagos high society under a cloud of shame. Pippa, reading the headlines, it's all collapsing. Everyone who once danced in this dark game is paying the price. She recalled Pastor Evan's words about a storm and a cleansing fire. It seemed that prophecy had come true. A final piece of gossip reached Pippa through a social media link. Zane, the unstable tech millionaire, was indeed confined to a mental health facility, undergoing treatment for severe obsessive behavior. His startup had crumbled in his absence. Investors fled once they realized his erratic conduct. The entire empire he built at 22 disappeared as swiftly as it had risen. Pippa felt a flicker of pity for the young man. While he played a huge part in her public humiliation, she also recognized he was mentally unwell. She tried sending him a short note apologizing for their toxic entanglement, but it never reached him. A caretaker responded that personal messages could disturb his therapy. With Michael's offer in hand, Pippa took on the role of restaurant manager. She arrived early each morning to meet vendors, organize inventory, and coordinate the kitchen staff. She realized that decades of living in luxury had not taught her the day-to-day discipline of managing a real business. Mistakes were inevitable. Miscalculations with purchasing, hiring an unreliable chef who vanished without notice, and occasional arguments with impatient customers. Michael visited the premises occasionally. He remained polite but distant. At times, Pippa spotted glimpses of the old Michael, kind, supportive, but the years of betrayal couldn't be erased overnight. She faced it bravely. She knew trust is earned in the smallest daily interactions, not demanded through tears. Pippa, to Michael, after a month of smooth operation, sales are up 15% this month. The new chef is fantastic. Michael, that's good. Keep it up. Sometimes they shared a short lunch, discussing finances or marketing strategies. The conversation never strayed into personal territory unless Pippa initiated a gentle apology or expression of remorse. Michael listened quietly but rarely spoke of his own emotions. One afternoon, Pastor Evans walked into the restaurant unannounced. Pippa, wearing a simple manager's uniform, nearly dropped a tray of drinks when she saw him. She felt unworthy to face him, recalling the warnings she had ignored. Pastor Evans, with a warm smile, "My child, you've come a long way from the storms. Are you finding peace here?" She swallowed hard. Surrounded by the clink of cutlery and customers chatting, she led him to a corner table. Pippa, voice quiet, "I've done so many horrible things, Pastor, but I'm trying." Michael, "He's given me a chance." Pastor Evans, nodding, "The path to redemption is never easy. Pain carves out humility in our hearts. You must forgive yourself, too." He asked if Michael was around. She directed him to the small office at the back. When Pastor Evans emerged later, his face glowed with relief. "Pastor Evans, he bears scars, but he's finding his strength in faith and honest work. I sense that your penance will bear fruit if you remain sincere, Pippa." His parting words struck her deeply. She resolved to persist, no matter how many humiliations she had to swallow, no matter how many awkward silences filled the gap between her and Michael. After 6 months, Taste of Home turned a decent profit. Local magazines wrote small features praising its affordable yet delicious menu. Customers praised the polite staff and the cozy ambience. Pippa, hands-on at every step, felt an unfamiliar but genuine pride in this success born of her daily hard work, not a wealthy man's bankroll. One evening, when the lights dimmed and the last customers left, Michael lingered behind. Pippa had stayed to balance the day's books. Together, they locked the doors. Outside, the air was cool with a gentle breeze. For a moment, they stood side by side, gazing at the neon-lit street. "Michael, softly, I'm impressed. You didn't quit, even when things got tough. This place is thriving." Pippa, smiling faintly, "Thank you. It feels good to build something real." A heavy pause settled. She mustered the courage to speak. Pippa, Michael, I don't expect us to go back to how we used to be. But I would be lying if I said I didn't hope for forgiveness. Not just from you, but from myself. He studied her quietly. Even in the dim light, she could see the sadness and the memories swirling in his eyes. Then he spoke. Michael, I won't lie either. I was broken, but time has given me perspective. I see you've changed. You aren't chasing easy money anymore. You show up here every day and work hard. Maybe that's enough for a start. They locked eyes, a silent exchange of recognition. Two people who had once shared a castle of glass, now standing in the humble reality of an ordinary street corner. The future was uncertain, but at least they were no longer adversaries. Whether they might ever truly reconcile remained a mystery. Yet they had found a cautious middle ground, built on sincerity, regret, and the possibility of growth.